Oppenheimer, brand new film from Universal, written and directed by Christopher Nolan. The film stars Cillian Murphy as the famous J. Robert Oppenheimer as we go through the story of him as he is in the development of the atomic bomb that President Truman, played by Gary Oldman, will be using to drop on either Germany or possibly even Japan. This is a film with an all-star cast, which also includes Robert Downey Jr. as Louis Strauss, who does have some authority over Oppenheimer, but they are in conflict with the majority of the movie. Emily Blunt plays Kitty, the wife of Robert Oppenheimer, who is his fiercest defender throughout the entire movie. Matt Damon plays Leslie Groves, the military officer who gives the job of Oppenheimer for the United States government. Other cast members include Alden Ehrenreich, Jason Clarke, Kenneth Branagh, Rami Malek, Florence Pugh, Matthew Modine. It's a pretty stacked Benny Safdie. It's a very stacked cast I'll get to in my review. The film is 3 hours long and is rated R. Welcome back to a brand new review here on Max Talks. We're going to talk about Oppenheimer. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell. If you're new to the channel, do movie reviews, TV show reviews, movie rankings, and weekly box office breakdown show. So please subscribe, ring the bell. If you're new to the channel, comment down below. What are your thoughts on Oppenheimer? Where does it rank for you of the Christopher Nolan films? Is this one of your least favorite movies of the year? Let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video, guys, the thumbs up button. That's how you support this channel. So obviously, I was very excited to watch Oppenheimer. Again, I grew up with Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, really starting with obviously Batman Begins in 05. He is, especially for my generation, probably the most influential director of the last really 20 years. And it's someone that is, for me, if he has a movie coming out, I go and see it. And while I think he really hasn't made a special film for me since Inception, I either liked his movies, they're no really bad, awful Christopher Nolan films. So very high expectations. This is easily his most star-studded cast he's ever had. I mean, this cast has the amount of Oscar, not just winners, but nominees in this cast. It is incredible. And we'll get into a lot of the performances in a second, because a lot of this movie you're going to be focused on is that basically it's hard in every movie to really realize someone's famous in every single scene. And you really feel that in this movie. So let's go through my negatives, the positives. By positives, the negatives, then my score. So start with the positives with this movie. And I really do think that this is the most ambitious Nolan film in some time. We'll get into the cast first, but really the first thing is Christopher Nolan. This movie is a masterpiece as it pertains to filmmaking perspective. Not just, obviously, we'll talk the atomic bomb and the way that he shows that in the movie. It's jaw-dropping, it's intense, it feels real because a lot of it is real, and it's jaw-dropping to watch. But I think one of the most probably things that a lot of people aren't going to talk about is Nolan's way of showing you what Robert Oppenheimer is thinking in his head. It made me even a little bit anxious because often a lot of this movie is about not just building a bomb and trying to win a war, but also the moral things of killing people to save people. And what Oppenheimer realizes when he's building the bomb, after the bomb explodes in Japan, all those different types of things. And I think when Nolan does a great job of putting you in Oppenheimer's spot and just seeing people talk about him and feeling what you feel like if you were in his situation after you built this bomb. It's a really great job, obviously, from the script from Christopher Nolan, who is the sole screenwriter for this movie. He's obviously has written all of his films, but usually he's had a compatriot or so, compatriot, someone who writes with him in all these movies, but he is the sole writer for this film, and it's one of his best solo written films of his career. It might be the best solo written film of his entire career. It's very fast-paced dialogue, and it's a very talky movie, but it's a very compelling movie from start to finish, which never really left me bored. Also, the first 2 hours of this movie is so well-paced, and it was so engaging, fascinating, all those words, and Nolan does a really good job, I think, for the most part, with pacing in this movie. Now, let's get into some of the performances, which are obviously Cillian Murphy is the person we do have to talk about. He is obviously J. Robert Oppenheimer in this movie, and it is the sixth collaboration between Murphy and Nolan after the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, and Dunkirk. He reunites for the first, probably his first leading role really in a major movie in Hollywood. And Murphy does deliver in this movie. He is fantastic. And I think it's more of a subtle performance than I think people are going to expect with this character. But he is fantastic. He actually does feel like a human being. And obviously comes with the direction and script from Nolan. But that really does come through Cillian Murphy's performance. It's easily probably his best performance of his career in movies. He's excellent in the film. And a lot of his performance comes down to him not even talking, just him listening to people talk to him and then him just observing is kind of where you kind of are in awe of Murphy's performance. And he's excellent, excellent in this movie. The other part, who I think is probably the best part of the movie for me, at least, is Robert Downey Jr. As Lewis Strauss. He's an actor who's very much been engulfed in Iron Man, rightly so, for the last like 15 years. He did Sherlock Holmes, a couple of them. He tried to get into some other movies like The Judge, but none of these movies really took off. And I really do think this is Robert Downey Jr.'s best work in a couple of 10, 15 years. He's excellent in the movie. And especially the last hour, which I think is not as good as the first 2 hours, but what really keeps the third hour of Oppenheimer compelling is Downey Jr.'s performance. He's excellent in the movie. He should and will hopefully be nominated at the Oscars. He's one of, if not the best part of this movie. And it's so cool to see because I think a lot of people just think of him as it's a compliment to think of him as this, but as Iron Man. But he really shows you that he is a fantastic dramatic actor, and he's excellent in the movie. Other standouts: Jason Clarke plays someone who is a part of the investigation team who are investigating Oppenheimer. He's excellent in the movie. He has a great intensity to the movie, and he has to have chemistry with a lot of the actors. Because obviously he's investigating a lot of the cast in the movie, and he is excellent in the film. Benny Safdie also, who plays someone who Edward, who is the head, or it was basically the creator of the hydrogen bomb. He's also one of the most compelling aspects of the movie, and I think the most compelling relationship really is between him and Oppenheimer. Because even though Oppenheimer's making this atomic bomb, he realized he's never was on board with the hydrogen bomb, and their dynamic throughout the entire movie is great. And to see Benny Safdie, who's basically been an indie guy his whole career, not just acting, but also directing, it's amazing to finally see him in this big of a movie do so well for himself, and he is excellent. Also, Tom Conti is excellent. He plays Albert Einstein, and Einstein and Oppenheimer's relationship is also one of the most important relationships in the movie. Josh Hartnett is really excellent. Emily Blunt, when she really gets to do her great acting towards the second half of the movie, she's excellent once she gets to, there's actually one scene in the second half of the movie where she really gets to let someone have it. Her and Jason Clarke surprisingly had great chemistry, and the one scene they have together is excellent. I also think there's a really good thing with Casey Affleck in the movie, which is really excellent. It's a stacked cast, but I think that my standouts for sure are Murphy, Downey Jr., Safdie, are kind of like, for me, the big three. And also Alden Ehrenreich, who's also fantastic. He's Han Solo, the young Han Solo. It's easily, for me, his best performance of his career. He's excellent in the movie as well. It's a captivating film from start to finish. There's also an intensity that Nolan really brings, which I really enjoyed. So it's a pretty awesome movie. I'll get into my negatives right now. There are a couple wasted characters, and there's tons of actors that are familiar with. I wish that Kitty, played by Emily Blunt, had more to do in the first half of the movie, because she really does become a fierce supporter of her husband for the second half of the movie. And I wish they gave a better reason why in the first half of the movie. Florence Pugh, who is, again, if you know this channel very well, she is easily one of, in my top 5 favorite actors working today. And she's in a very kind of I wouldn't say forgettable role, but she's kind of in a throwaway for me performance. She's easily the most wasted part of this cast for me, who has a major part of the story. She just feels very much on the wayside. And I think her character had an interesting relationship with Oppenheimer, but once they kind of, in their opinion, wrap up the story, they kind of forget about her for the rest of the film, making an impact on him. So I think they could have made a bigger impact with her character having a bigger impact on him. And as I said, I do think that the first 2 hours are near perfect for me. I do think that the last hour of the movie is really compelling, but it does take a while to get me back into it. It takes like 10-15 minutes to get back into the movie because the movie was so well paced for the first 2 hours, and then it has to take a bit of a pause. So it kind of took me out of the movie for like 5-10 minutes, and then I kind of got back on board. But overall, this is for me Nolan's best film since Inception. It's a fantastic film, really from start to finish. It's an all-star cast with a couple of really excellent performances in the movie, including Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. But overall, it's a fantastic movie. Downey, Murphy in particular are fantastic. Benny Safdie as well. The three of them for me are my clear Alden Ehrenreich, clear standouts in this movie. Sometimes you can kind of feel the length of the movie, but it's one of the most compelling movies and ambitious films I think you'll see all year long. I'll give Oppenheimer a 4.5 out of 5. I'm going to go 90% for Oppenheimer. I love this movie. It's going to be in my favorites of the year. So what are your thoughts on Oppenheimer? Let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys soon.